We begin Big Ten Live with the weekend's most significant news, the dismissal of now former Wisconsin head coach Paul Chryst, 67-26 during his 8-season run in Madtown, but the Badgers have struggled as of late, dropping 3 of 4, including Saturday's loss to Illinois. AD Chris McIntosh made the announcement Sunday, naming Jim Leonhard interim head coach.
I'm tasked with making difficult decisions about the future and of the direction of this program, and I felt at this point in time that a change was needed. I met with Coach Chryst this morning. We had a long meeting. We talked about it, and we agreed to move on with this change and this decision.
I had a long relationship with Coach Chryst as a player, mentoring me. You know, as I got into coaching, you know, this man hired me with 0 coaching experience and named me his coordinator a year later. So, very emotional day for myself. And with that being said, it's, you know, a dream for myself coming out of that nightmare.
And with that, we welcome you inside the Monday press conference edition of Big Ten Live. I'm Rick Pizzo. Now, normally we do hear from Wisconsin on Monday, understandably, with all that news and everything going on this week in Madtown. We will not hear from Jim Leonhard until a little bit later in the week, but over the course of the next 2.5 hours, you will hear from a handful of select Big Ten coaches, including Jim Harbaugh of the undefeated Michigan Wolverines. Mel Tucker and Michigan State really continuing to struggle. How about Jeff Brohm and the Boilermakers pulling off the upset of Minnesota this week? Tom Allen and company have to deal with Michigan this week. Greg Schiano and Rutgers just had to deal with the explosive Ohio State offense. Pat Fitzgerald's Northwestern team played better against Penn State, but not quite good enough. Bret Bielema and the Illini on the up and up, and Mickey Joseph coming off his first win as the head Husker. All of those coaches set to speak over the next 2.5 hours. We will begin with a trip to Ann Arbor. The Wolverines unbeaten at 5-0. 2-0 in Big Ten play. Most recently, 27-14, a game a lot of folks had selected as an upset special. Even Jim Harbaugh said Kinnick Stadium was the place top 5 teams go to die. Not his, as the Wolverines stay perfect on the season. Let's head to Ann Arbor now. Here is Jim Harbaugh.
We're throwing the ball really well, throwing it a lot. 240, 250 pass attempts, 8 touchdowns. You trust him to throw the ball, really good receivers. And the running backs, I mean, they're throwing it more than they're running it, so I don't know exactly what his average is, but challenge from the passing game and the running game, and he's big, tall guy that can make all the throws to all parts of the field, and he's not afraid to let her rip. 8 touchdown passes. He's having a good start to the season.
Chris? Coach, is Roman okay? And what happened on the play with him when she got hurt? Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
What happened on that play?
Same thing. Same thing you saw.
But he's okay.
I think so. We'll, once again, talk about everybody's health status. I mean, it's not my job to do.
Jim, we've had 5 Power 5 coaches have been fired mid-season. Do you think that's problematic that ADs, administrations are at least waiting for the season to play out? And I know you were pretty close with Paul Chryst. Your feelings on what's going on?
I think he's done a tremendous job, though. That was really shocking. But no, I don't have any comment on it. We just. Coach this team here, which I'm really pleased with. I'm really pleased with the way the guys are playing. You can really see them. Be interesting to see if you see the same thing, or if it comes through on TV. What I see on the field and being around these guys in the locker room and the way they play, it's just, I mean, they really play for each other. They care about each other, and they play to win for each other. That's that's really becoming evident with this Team 143. And we'll just get back to work, get back to preparing like we do, and get ready for Indiana.
John?
You talked about Blake's cutting ability, but has he answered the questions of some that wondered about him being an every down back or a short yardage back?
Yes.
You talk about how you've seen that demonstrated. Obviously, Iowa's a good defense in that respect.
Yeah, I think he's checking every box he can check as an every down back, as a short yardage back, as a versatile back, and he can run all the assortment of the runs. I mean, he can run the inside runs, he can run the outside runs, he can protect, he can block, he can catch out of the backfield. He's a 5-tool running back. He does it all.
Isaiah?
Staying with the run game, what kind of nuances have you seen from Mike Hart that have made him effective with that group?
Just really good coach. He's a really good football coach who's works extremely hard at the game. I mean, contributes in so many ways. Game day to day coaching guys. In the running game, in the pass game. Always has really good sound ideas and really good teacher, communicator, expert at protections and blitz pickups, and coaching the guys how to play the running back position. But I mean, it's a lot more than that. I mean, it's a lot more than just being able to coach a position. I mean, go-to guy for me, and the rest of the staff. Just really good at what he does.
On the left, Aaron?
Jim, could you speak to Luke's time here, just moving up the depth chart, getting time in the field, and then going from blocking to being a big part of the passing game?
Yeah, just does everything really well. I mean, I thought Luke. I mean, I talked about it at the beginning of in the summer. I mean, Luke, I think, is one of the best tight ends in the country. I thought his main competition would be Eric All. But he's even better than I thought. He's fast. He's physical. Dedicated blocker, but also really good hands and ability to get separation, get open, crease separation. Make tough catches, and team player all the way. I mean, he's an outstanding player. He'll be playing on Sundays, and all that really good stuff. Maybe before it's said and done, one of the best tight ends to ever play here. That's what I'm seeing right now.
Andrew?
Maybe you've addressed this in past years, but the idea of a trap game, outsiders talk about it. They might use it to describe this game, given what you just did, and the Penn State number 10 in the country is after that. Is that a phrase that you enters your mind ever? Do you have any thoughts or concerns about that?
Just attacking the day. I mean, really, we know there'll be a big challenge. I use a darn good football team. Always played us tough. I mean, and good, and similar to Iowa. I mean, ton of respect for how they play. Consider them a blue collar team that always has a lot of talented guys and is really well coached. So. We're gonna have to play good. I mean, it's always gonna come down to that. Whatever tag you put on a game, it comes down to if you play good and coach good and make sure that we're prepared good. All the teams we play this week, next week, every week after. We play good, we got a really good chance of winning. We don't play good, we got a really good chance of getting beat.
Isaiah?
Some teams come out of the gate swinging at the beginning of the season, get all the accolades. And your several of your teams in recent years have kind of had a little bit more of a climb. Is there any benefit to coming out of the gates in the season swinging, or is there a different benefit to just kind of steadily improving?
I don't know about that. I mean, just coming out of the gate, starting fast, that's something we definitely want to be about. And I thought we were in this game. That for the coaches to put together that opening drive, just one play after another, a positive play. Just all the offensive coaches, Sharon, Matt, Mike, Ron. I mean, just a really, really tremendous job. Grant Newsom, analyst Kirk Campbell, that was great. Bret Ingalls. I mean, all the guys. John Marukian. That was take a deep long bow and honor them for that was really good, really good. First starting out that plan, it was well prepared, it was well thought out, it was well practiced. That's how we want to start a football game. Offensive line coming off the ball, and I thought we did a good job too. I mean, we made some adjustments as the game went on, and so yes, definitely want to be about starting fast.
Chris?
Thoughts that Trevor Keegan had an impact on that game and how he played?
Yeah, he did. He really did. I thought it was having number 77 out there. It's really good, as well as Gio. How hot he's been playing. It was even noticeably really good with Trevor back in there, and the whole line. It's a group that's. I feel like the chemistry is really coming together with that group. Selfless group. I mean, they bring a lot of juice, bring a lot of energy to the team, but they do it in a really good, cohesive manner. Trente Jones, I think it's the third week I've stood up here and said that was his best game that he's played, and Ryan Hayes as well. I thought it was just both tackles were really, really good in the game. Olu and Zint also played really well, and as a group, they're continuing to gain a lot of momentum.
Reiner?
Jay made an interesting observation last week about how the defense in this current system has kind of helped the offense prepare, through different looks and everything. How much have you seen that? I mean, do you agree with that observation that the defense that you've implemented last year has helped you guys?
Yeah, it's talking about the different looks. More zone covers, more quarters, more cover three. There's also the man principles, the two high principles. So it's definitely not to compare, but there's definitely more looks. I think that's a valuable, a credible statement.
Stand on the left, Chris.
Heading into the season, Mike Sainristil said he was confident in his abilities, but he wasn't sure what the result would be until he got out on the field against live competition. I'm curious, 5 weeks in, what is your assessment of how he's performed in that role so far?
Mikey really good. Mikey Sainristil's been playing really good, and there's been a ton of growth. He's starting. And then there's some learning experiences too, but it's been very arrow up, he got to quitting himself, really good, better than you could have anticipated, and even better than we had hoped for, and continue to learn. He gave up one in the game where he had outside leverage. You got to keep his outside leverage. You can't go for that little stick move at the top of a route when he has outside leverage, and those are good, valuable learning experiences. And that the thing about Mike is, he will learn from it. He will. That'll be part of his game going forward. And he's never ever been an error repeater, which is so valuable for any player. Yeah, you make make a mistake once, that's okay. Make a mistake twice, I mean, shame on you, but can't exactly make a mistake once, shame on me. Make a mistake twice, shame on you. I know it's the other way around, but in football, I think it's that way. In life, I think it's the other way. In football, I think it's shame on me the first time, shame on you the second time. Shame on me. We didn't coach that well enough, But second time, no sense to be an error repeater, and that's one thing I can say about Mike Sainristil is he learns from everything, and he is not an error repeater.
Got time for about 3 or 4 more, David.
Hey, Coach. Just wondering, from the perspective of you played in the league for a while, you coached in the league for a while. If you had any thoughts on what happened in Miami last week?
Like everybody, I mean, there's you're not there, you don't know. Sure, there'll be investigations, and it's not what anybody wants to have happen. I'm sure, some heads will roll, deservedly so. But yeah, and that's just looking in from the keyhole, like we all are, and not knowing everything about it, but it should never happen.
Over on the left, Aaron.
Jim, when you're weighing whether to bring in a transfer, how do you balance the idea of adding a talent and him being a cultural fit within the program?
Yeah, we weigh both those things.
I guess with Ayabi particularly, how did you assess that?
Same way, yeah. Talent, intangibles, those two things.
Alejandro?
With Yavi, I know you've mentioned that he would get more playing time as his understanding of the playbook increased. Where is he at in that process?
He's more and more each week. He had an outstanding game. Him and Mike Morris, I mean, you look at that critical drive there at the end. I mean, I think all 4 plays were made by those two guys, whether it was the sack or the pressure that led to the sack or making the ball come out quick. Just really good. Mike Moe, he led the way. I mean, at halftime he was really getting everybody fired up, and then there's one thing to talk, but then go out and, as they say, walk the walk is way better. It's awesome. I'm really happy for Mike. Really happy for Ayabi. I mean, we had a stretch in there where the pressure kind of went away for a quarter or so, but it really came back right when we needed it. But he's growing. I mean, probably anybody could tell that's definitely arrow up on Ayabi.
Jim Harbaugh, not really a guy who goes outside his lane, doesn't like talking about other teams all that much. Not surprisingly, he was asked about the firing of Paul Chryst, and he did say that was really shocking, though he decided not to expand on the multiple firings in season of Power 5 coaches so far this year. Of course, up next for Jim Harbaugh and the Wolverines against Indiana this weekend at home. Indiana really struggling as of late, especially on the defensive end. Gave up 45 in that loss to Cincinnati, then outscored by Nebraska this past weekend. 35-21 was the final. And I should say, of course, that game this weekend is in Bloomington after back-to-back road games for Indiana. Let's head to Bloomington this weekend as we check in with the head Hoosier. Here's Tom Allen.
Tough game on Saturday night. Obviously got back late. Guys, a chance to get back today and regroup and had some good time together with them and evaluating everything, watching film, and getting ourselves physically and mentally ready for another big opportunity this week. Scout team players of the week, defensive scout Patrick Finley, offensive scout David Holloman and Peter Schultz. Proud of these guys. And then special teams scout Liam Zacchia, who's overcome an ACL injury a year ago and worked extremely hard and does a great job every day. So proud of our guys in that regard, and excited about this weekend. Great opportunity for our program with the Michigan Wolverines coming for homecoming, and with the big noon kickoff being here, a lot of guys excited about that as well. So big week for us to be able to get healthy, get better, and press on. Questions?
Tom, forgive me, this is, I don't know, kind of a more sort of philosophical question, but I know you're without your top two receivers Saturday. Do you feel like the offense is getting a better sort of feel for just where to put guys to get the most out of them, I guess? And I understand that some of that has to kind of get thrown in the trash when you know you don't have Cam and then you lose DJ in warmups or you can't clear him after warmups, but do you feel like you're getting a good enough command of the other guys in the offense, where to get them the ball, how to get them the ball, like why they're getting it at a certain point in a drive to get the best out of them too?
Yeah, I think so. And I think that, it's always difficult when you lose two guys that have been your most productive playmakers. But at the same time, other guys got to step up, and a couple guys made some plays. I think we had 5 drops, which is something we can't have. We needed those catches in those situations. And challenge those guys to step up in that, and that's part of the execution piece, and to help our quarterback out and help our whole offense out. So, but I do think that as everything progresses, you do figure out more about how teams are going to defend you and different things you can do to get guys the football and trying to be able to maximize that. And as we saw with a guy like Jalen Lucas, is a guy that we need to and want to and expect to and get him the ball more. He'll be returning kicks for us now consistently, and then just trying to get him more touches without question, because he obviously showed what he can do with the ball in his hand in that game, and need to continue with that. And so, but there's also there's parts to that, there's pieces to that, and as we get our guys developed each week and opportunities to be able to maximize the skill set of our guys on the opposite side of the ball.
To keep going on Jalen, then, I mean, what's been, I guess, the holdup? Obviously, he's not a really big guy. I imagine that's an issue for pass protection, but what has kept you guys from getting the ball more at this point, and what do you have to be sort of creative about, or how do you have to be creative to get him in positive situations?
Yeah, I think that there's some variables there with that. He's obviously running back, and pass protection is a big deal. It's a part of that, and we don't sub guys a lot, so you got to be able to stay with the personnel grouping that you have in those situations. So I think that's a big part of it, because every time you sub, then they'll come in at their own leisurely pace to be able to slow everything down. So that's schematically what you want to be able to prevent from how we want to operate. And so then just being able to grow, he's young, true freshman, but just to continue to expand his knowledge of what we're doing and find creative ways to, like I said, you can't just insert him in for a play, and that's kind of how it's, maybe some styles of offense you could do that more, and just being very transparent about that. And I think it's obvious as you watch this play, and a lot of teams do that now. We played several teams already this year where they'll stay in the same personnel package, so you can't sub, and so, or they'll do certain things on third down, so you can't sub in your third down package. So there's that strategy going back and forth, and a lot of people are doing that. So, but to be able to bring him along and get him more involved is definitely a priority for us right now, and as he continues to grow and develop as a player. And like I said, you see what he can do with the ball in his hand, and we know we need to do that.
Hey, Coach, just want to get your thoughts. How would you evaluate development of the offensive line over the last couple of years, and do you feel it's to the point that allows your program to consistently compete for bowl games?
Well, I'd say that we played better this past week than we did the week before, but seeing some guys around, still thinking I think he needs to get better. I think that's something that I want to focus on in both recruiting and player development, and continuing to evaluate that, because you have to consistently have a group of guys ready to play. Things happen, injuries happen, and when someone goes down, you got to have another guy there. Josh Sales is going to be getting more reps, and that's something that's a positive thing, as he's young and developing, but continue to grow him. And other guys are coming along. Khalil's progressing well and continuing to get better. And that's every time he plays, he gets better and better, which is big for him and for us. And so I just think that's an area that, yeah, we got to make sure that we're I do like our young guys. I think we got some really good young old linemen that we're trying to bring along. And that is a position that takes, 2 or 3 years for a guy to really be physically in that mode. I know Matt Bedford was the exception to the rule to come in and play as a freshman. It didn't happen very often. And but at the same time, I just still looking at it, big picture-wise, we need to get better there.
Hey, Tom. I don't think we've talked to you much about Lewis Moore, another junior college transfer. Came up with that big play on the sack. I guess, what do you like about the way he fits in with your defense and just his play on Saturday? Yeah, I think Lewis did a great job. We're trying to find a niche for him within our system to maximize our roster. He came to us from junior college, as you mentioned, was a really two-way guy there. Mostly was a receiver, played a little bit of defense. Just by doing our homework with him, he pretty much practiced mostly on offense and just a little bit on defense. So we knew he had a high ceiling. We felt like we took him as a defensive back, as a potential nickel guy, because he can play corner or safety. And love his athleticism, love his ball skills. The thing that's probably was the biggest surprise early was how physical he was in tackling, because we knew he didn't have an extensive background at playing defense, although he's from a high school in Dallas, Texas there that Mesquite Petit, and I know his head coach there well, recruited there for many, many years, and they've always produced a lot of tough, hard-nosed kids. And so I knew we were getting a good football player, just from doing our homework with that. And he's just probably come along a little quicker than we thought he might, just because of his lack of defensive experience, before we got him here, and also the fact that he wasn't here in the spring. So I just think that that's it's been a huge plus for us, and continue to use him as a safety and as a Husky, and maybe even as a corner based on the needs of our team. So we like to get those versatile guys that can play multiple positions.
Coach, Jalen Lucas has been brought up. Josh Henderson also another guy. I know you can't predict the plays are called so quickly, but how can you guys scheme to get these guys in the position to get the ball in their hands more once we've seen that they've got some electricity sometimes? Yeah, I agree. And I think that's the big objective, and that was even a big part of our discussion as a staff yesterday, was being able to do that. And I think you're listening to guys there that have come on as the season's played out, and it's about getting playmakers the football and getting those guys the ball in space, and the guys that can make somebody miss, give them a chance to do that consistently. So those are two guys that we're excited about, and that just do a tremendous job. They're both such great workers every day, great teammates, do the little things right, and we got several guys that we feel like we can get the ball to, and the challenge now is to consistently do that within our scheme and within our system, how we're organizing ourselves.
James Head was talking to us before about how he feels a lot of what happened on Saturday was mental mistakes and kind of some unforced errors. And you and others keep talking about, the offense needing to develop consistency. I guess, what do you do in practice to develop consistency and address those kind of mental errors? Yeah, I think, even defensively, we gave up only 5 explosives the entire game, but there were some big ones that cost us, and so, one was technique and one was communication, so to me that's, and I will say, the challenges, especially defensively, you play a lot of guys, which we want to do. There's going to be different guys matched up with different players in different situations, and it could be, things that you have maybe rep that exact same situation. Sometimes you did it during a walkthrough, or maybe it was real practice rep, but sometimes it's just different types of layers to that. So I think that increases the challenge, but at the same time, that's how we, know we want to play, So that's, to me, it's just continued reps, attention to detail in everything that we do. And I think our guys, we talked about that this morning as a team, was just to be able to go through and evaluate. We won the turnover margin, we won the explosive play ratio, but we had some mental mistakes that were costly. The punt block was a huge, play for them, that really hurt us, So, and to me, when I look at, even offensively, our special teams and defense at times hasn't helped them. We've had our starting position was
15 yards less than theirs, for average starts per series, which puts you at a disadvantage. We started on the 1 twice, inside the 10 several times, and we inside the 20 several times. And so we got to, everybody sees those stats where the percentage of scoring goes way, way down as you get, start further back. And it makes it tough on any offense, And so we're just trying to, we dropped 2 interceptions. One I thought would have been a pick 6, and we just got to make those plays, and just creating positive field position, and then those things those mistakes have put us back, whether it's a penalty on special teams. We've had more of those this year than we've had in the last several years, and it's been frustrating, and some of it's been some younger guys, but at the same time, we got to continue to teach. It's technique, it's execution, and so there's no shortcut to doing that. It's continuing to make it a point of emphasis in practice. It's continuing to focus on it because we go in the fourth quarter tied 21-all, and we got to find a way to win the fourth quarter. We won many fourth quarters this season already, and we didn't win that one, and it cost us the game. And so those third downs. You think about our defense. We had done a really good job on third downs until the fourth quarter. We had 3 of those in the fourth quarter, and they won all 3 of them. And so that to me is really. The fourth quarter execution it's in practice. It's the attention to detail when your mind is tempted to wander in a meeting or in a walkthrough and you're not the one in and you're staying off to the side and you're getting a mental rep. It's being able to be disciplined enough and making sure we're holding those guys. And we take a lot of pride in our walkthroughs and how attentive to detail we are. But obviously it's got to continue because when you're not getting the progress you want on game day, you got to make changes, which you continue to focus on the things we need to do to make that better. And that's what we're going to do. We just stay the course and continue to rep it and make sure the guys are in there that are ready to play and can help us be successful.
You may have kind of answered this just a second ago, but 2019, 2020, you were 14-7. The past year plus, you're 5-12. What's the biggest difference between the program during those couple of years and just what's been going on over the past season plus?
I would say, obviously last year was very difficult in regards to, losing some of those early ones, and then you start having mounting injuries, which makes it really challenging. I think, consistency in our execution is probably the one thing that would jump out to me, because that's how you finish games in those situations is to be able to execute better. We obviously got some new faces, from those couple seasons. And we have some guys have been here during that time, So, but I think to me, quarterback play, when you think about the 2 years before that, when last year we had inconsistent quarterback play, just inconsistent, keeping the guy healthy, that position, I thought was tough. I think defensively, we haven't set our team up for success with takeaways like we did in those 2 previous years. I think that's a huge, probably way bigger deal than you realize. I think if you think back, especially 2020 season, that was a huge part of setting up the offense and giving them short fields and allowing us to be able to take advantage of those situations. So, and I think special teams too. I mean, even just you think about the field position has been not in our favor like it needs to be. And it's not major things other than that the block was obviously a major thing, but the block pump. But in the first 5 games, it's not been major things, but it's been the subtle little things here and there that have set us back on. We get a return to the 35, and then we get a penalty that puts us back inside the 10. Things like that are big deals. And I think that to me that those little small attention to details of that hasn't been as effective, and I think it's hurt us. And it's affected the outcomes of games without question. And we got to find a way, to get those corrected and give ourselves a chance to be our best. Because right now, that's kind of when I think about this game, it just kind of those things showed up at critical times.
Coach, we kind of saw the defense get punched in the mouth and then really settle in as the game went on. But during the fourth quarter, Nebraska had a couple drives that kind of put you guys away. What is there any sort of element, maybe just the tempo or fatigue on defense that kind of allowed Nebraska to pull away in that fourth quarter?
Well, in the second half, for sure, we didn't stay on the field, as an offense, and so I think that took its toll in the fourth quarter. But it's about staying on the field. I don't think it's not tempo. It's, if you're 3 and out, you're 3 and out, whether you're going fast or slow. It's executing, it's staying on the football field as an offense and driving the ball. And that, to me, is the biggest issue. And I think it snowballed. Now, obviously, we had a big third down there in that fourth quarter that gave up the long touchdown. That was really, really huge. And so, but at the same time, after that, then I think the fatigue kind of gets into you a little bit. But yeah, to me, it's about offense. In that moment, in that part of the game was we need to execute, make contested catches, and keep the chains moving so we can stay on the field, create momentum, obviously put yourself in position to score points, but also that gives your defense some more time to take plays away from what they can run.
Coach, you were talking about Lewis Moore before, and earlier Bryant Fitzgerald said one of the things that stood out to him was just the energy that he brings. I guess, would you agree with that, and just kind of how would you describe him?
Well, he's a super positive guy. Every day he's the same. He loves playing the game of football, you can tell. Some guys are just that way. They just enjoy life. They enjoy competing. They enjoy practice. He's one of those. He laughs a lot. He and Fitzy they have a lot. You can tell they have fun together, and they have similar personalities. I mean, Fitzy might be a little bit more outgoing than Lewis, but at the same time, I just think he has a spirit about him that you want on your team, you want in your locker room, and you want guys like that realize they're blessed. And I tell you one thing, because he's multiple times has texted me and thanked me for believing in him and bringing him here. This is his dream to be able to play at this level, and he went to junior college to be able to have that kind of opportunity. And so I felt like he was overlooked in high school. He was on a very, very talented team, had a lot of guys that got more highly recruited than he did. But I think that also goes into his attitude. He's really, really thankful and appreciative for what he's been given, and that he's making the most of it, which is pretty awesome.
Kind of out of left field, but Matt Holt, Coach Wilt told a story last week about how kind of like one of his first days on the job here, you were walking through the weight room with him and you just pointed at Matt and said he's going to be a really good football player. Obviously, his background's a little different. He's a walk-on. I think he said he basically just didn't have any offers. I think Wabash might have been his only other offer out of high school. I mean, number one, kind of how did you find him? I know Center Grove is probably just a program you see a lot, but number two, when did you maybe first realize there was something more to him than the average walk-on?
Yeah, first of all, he kind of got victimized by COVID, in his recruitment. I think that was a big part of it. He switched high schools, and just due to all the different circumstances going on and trying to find the best opportunity in that situation because of the pandemic that we were all in. And so I think that definitely set back his recruiting. He did have some injuries in high school. Would be another reason why he wasn't as highly recruited. Really liked his film. Was surprised he didn't have more going on, when you start looking at a guy. Because what we do is we go through and evaluate guys for these preferred walk-on spots, which are really very valuable to us. And we put a lot into it and have a whole system that we do to evaluate those positions and how many slots we're going to take for each position group. And he was in one of those. And so, honestly, he's been better than I thought, And so once we got him here and we started practicing, and I would say for him it was the scrimmages. Every time we'd scrimmage, it was like, okay, this guy's just got a knack for the ball. And to play linebacker, it's about leadership and production, and he just produced. Every time we went live, he showed up and made plays. And so there's just a grittiness to him, a toughness to him, and he plays through all sorts of whatever is going on. Doesn't seem to matter, doesn't affect him in a negative way. So I just think as he's been here the longer, I just knew, you could just tell after that first fall camp that this guy's got something to him, and I'm excited for his growth and development. He's making plays for us, and we definitely need that. So really, really proud of him. But like I said, I'm not really surprised now that he's been here. He's proven that to us, and he's a good tackler, and he's smart, tough, and dependable. And those are three great qualities.
Against Illinois in week 1, Anderson had a couple big drops and had that one that was that ball that was tipped up for an interception. And this week obviously he's really stepped up with Cam and DJ out. Just how did he bounce back from those early drops, and how comfortable has he gotten this season, and how much has he progressed this season?
Yeah, so he's obviously gotten a lot more comfortable, and those can kind of be tough on you mentally, and you start second-guessing yourself sometimes, and you got to flush it. And he's done a great job of just putting it in his past. And we've always felt like since he's been here that he has a dimension to him that we need. We need that explosive playmaking ability. He's one of our fastest guys at receiver, and made some big plays for us on Saturday night. It's got to continue. Want to grow that, keep developing that. Other guys got to continue to step up, and so I just think it's just being mentally tough and just flushing whatever happens in the past and not making it a part of your, defining your future to me. So that's really what it's about for him. And we talk about playing the next play all the time, and good or bad. Make a great play, flush it, play the next one. Make a mistake, flush it, and play the next one. And so he's done a great job of that, and I'm excited to see him continue to grow in our program. Awesome. Have a great day. Yeah, Leo.
Tough stretch coming up for Indiana, and Tom Allen pointing out that the offense is taking a lot of heat, but saying the defense, special teams, hasn't helped out the offense. There's been a big discrepancy in field position, but also disappointed because seeing more penalties on special teams than they've had in several years. Can't afford any of that stuff, not this weekend with Michigan in town. What a weekend for Purdue, pushing Minnesota around, beating the Gophers at their own game by being more physical, forcing turnovers, 3 INTs of Tanner Morgan, and kept Minnesota to just 47 yards rushing. It all added up to a 2010 upset win for Purdue over then number 21 Minnesota in the Twin Cities. Purdue with another tough road ask this weekend as the Boilers trying to build on the momentum of 2 straight wins by picking up a road victory against another explosive offense in red-hot Maryland. That's a game, by the way, you can see this weekend right here on Big Ten Network. In advance of that matchup, here is Purdue head coach Jeff Brohm.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to another great opponent coming up this week, going on the road again. As you watch Maryland, they're playing really good football as well. They're 4-1, with their one loss being at Michigan, where they were winning late in the first half until Michigan scored on a 4th-and-1 run, and then they were trailing by 3 early in the fourth quarter and trailing by 5 late in the fourth quarter. So this team has played some really good football. They've got good skill on the outside, a really good quarterback. They like to throw the ball. Their defense has definitely improved upon last year and done a really good job, and they're a very good overall team. So we've got our hands full. It's a different opponent than what we faced last week in a lot of different ways, so we've got to prepare accordingly and adjust some things to get us hopefully an opportunity to go out there and compete and get the game in the fourth quarter and see where it goes from there. But I do know that this will be a stern test and a tough challenge to go on the road to a team that's playing very, very well.
Coach, obviously you didn't have King DeRue, Jalen Graham this past week against Minnesota. Is there any update on their status? Are they any closer to seeing the field this upcoming week?
We are hopeful that Jalen Graham will be able to play this week, so we'll see how this week progresses, but there is some optimism there. King, we won't know until later in the week if he has a chance, and I would say it's doubtful at this point.
Any concern with Aiden at all? Obviously played this past week. How's he holding up? How's he feeling heading into this week of practice?
I think Aiden held up pretty well for the most part, other than normal soreness. So I expect him to, just do as much as he can this week that he feels comfortable with. And as we get to later in the week, hopefully he continues to progress, but I'm optimistic.
These past 2 weeks, the offense has played with a lot more balance, maybe out of necessity, not having Aiden against Florida Atlantic, and then maybe him not being entirely 100% against Minnesota. But as this offense is able to show that it can put together a consistent run game, just what's going to open up as Aiden continues to get back to full form heading into the rest of the year?
Well, the goal in offense is to score points and try to figure out a way to move the ball and control the football and keep our defense off the field and figure out a way to win. And in this conference, a lot of good defenses, a lot of good teams that run the football, control the ball. Then you get into some weather elements later in the year. You've got to be able to do what it takes to win, and that just can't just be throwing the ball. I do think that we've made some progress running the ball. In the passing game, some teams have played the pass, and we have to react accordingly. And at the same time, I do want our receivers to continue to get better. I think we need to make some strides there. Charlie has played well. He's been nicked up quite a bit because he's carried the load, and our other receivers need to continue to improve and gain confidence from our quarterback so that we can spread the ball around. But I just think taking what the defense gives you to a certain degree and reacting to how they're playing means you have to be able to do both, and whatever it takes to score points. So we got to continue to push through it, work hard, and figure out a way to create more points.
What do those other pass catchers need to do to continue to be a secondary passing option aside from Charlie Jones, who's obviously had as good of a season as he had? You know, the guys like Payne Durham or T.J. Sheffield, Mershawn Rice, some of these other pass catchers. What's going to help them maybe make more of an impact on a consistent basis?
Well, I think Payne's done a good job. You know, he can control the middle of the field. He'll catch the ball in traffic. We need to continue to utilize him. He's been our next best option at this point. You know, T.J. Sheffield, we've asked to do a lot. He's played slot receiver, outside receiver. I just think he's just got to continue to understand and know exactly what we're doing and find a way to get open as fast as he can and gain trust from our quarterback. I think, you know, Tyrone Tracy just has to continue to work on his get off and bursting and running as hard as he can on every play and gaining trust in our quarterback as well. And then I think when you look at Mershawn, he's been nicked up here and there, and you know, we want him to go harder and faster and come off the ball and explode. And I just think there's a lot of small things that our young receivers just need to continue to work through. They work hard. They give us great effort. You know, we expect them to be great, and sometimes it takes time. So we just got to continue to work through it. And those guys have worked hard, and I just think that as the season goes on, they just got to compete, practice hard, and get out there. And you never know when you have a big game.
I wanted to ask about Corey Trice. I think he had a pretty good game against Minnesota. He was only targeted like 3 times, had a pass breakup, no catches. For a guy that's, you know, obviously coming off an injury from last year, he's missed a lot of time. He missed a lot of time in the offseason and in fall camp and things like that. How is he continuing to progress and kind of return to form and even beyond the player that he was before sustaining that injury?
I think Corey has done a really good job. He's coming off an ACL injury that takes a little bit of time and went a little slower than we would like, and there were a few setbacks along the way. But he's continued to work through it. He practices as hard as he can. I think this past week was the first week he didn't wear his knee brace, which I thought he looked much more fluid and better. Could just be me saying that, but that's what I thought. I did. I think this past week we did a much better job of mixing things up on defense, mixing looks up, and not having our corners on an island every play. And that's going to be important moving forward, that you know, you can't ask your corners to play every snap on an island in single coverage. So we've got to continue to do a good job of studying that and making sure that we're able to stop the run, but yet, you know, give our corners some help and a little bit of relief and let them play off. So I just think it's been a combination of all those things. But Corey works hard. He wants to win. He's a great competitor, and I think he can continue to improve as the year goes on. But he did a really good job this past game.
And then going into Maryland, you already mentioned it a little bit. Talia Tagovailoa, their quarterback, he's throwing the ball at an efficient rate right now. I think he's completing like 75% of his passes. They have several guys that are contributing in the passing game. Just what does that offense show on a week-to-week basis, and how is your defense preparing to kind of match up against what they want to do?
Well, this will be totally different than last week. This team will throw the ball. They like to throw the ball. That's kind of what they like to do. They have a quarterback who's accurate, who can run around and make plays. He plays just like his brother. Just, you know, can escape the pocket, can make plays with his feet, can buy time, and he can throw an accurate, catchable ball. He's played a lot of football, so he's got good experience. He's got quite a bit of weapons. So their receiving attack is balanced. You know, all those guys are catching about the same amount of balls, and they do a good job spreading that around. So, you know, we will have to prepare a little differently, without question, than for the last week, and we got to make sure that we're able to guard and defend. You know, if you look at some of the games in the past, you got to figure out enough ways to get more pressure on the quarterback than what we've seen lately, but yet some zone eyes and be able to read the quarterback and get some interceptions. I think Iowa played them the best last year when their defense was able to do a really good job of getting turnovers. So I just think there's a perfect combination there. We've got to figure it out, and we've got to go execute it.
Jeff, this offensive line, Jeff, just talk about this line, maybe where you think it rates with all the lines you've had at Purdue so far, and just talk about how they played. It seems like maybe one of your more physical fronts.
Well, I think they've done a good job. We've worked hard on that aspect over the last couple of years. It's not ever going to be perfect or a perfect science to us, but we got a good nucleus of guys that give us great effort. They always have. They want to win. We need to do the best job we can to put them in a position to succeed by having some balance. If you ask them to pass protect all game long, and no one can do that. But I think that we have a good young nucleus with a couple veterans, and they've competed well. And even when we've had a couple injuries, even this past week as well, other guys were able to step in there and even change positions a little bit and play hard and do a good job. So I just think you got to practice them, you got to work them, you got to task them with more than just one position in case that ever happens. And at this point, it already has. So I just think that it's a good group of guys, and we just got to continue to work with it and try to get more guys ready. And that's kind of the key piece, because you never know, who else will go down as we proceed.
And then Jacob Wahlberg, just sort of discuss, I guess, his evolution, Jeff, and just his contribution so far, particularly the last 2 weeks.
Well, Jacob is a really good competitor. He loves football. He comes from a football family. He's a bigger young man that when we brought him here, is he DN, is he a linebacker? You kind of had that thought a little bit that he can maybe do both. Where were his strength? He got hurt his first couple years. Seemed like he always had an injury that kind of kept him out. But he has good instincts. So he plays that middle linebacker position for us. He's got good instincts. He's got good length. He has kind of uncanny athleticism when it comes to just catching the ball and having a knack for getting your hands up and getting in the lane. And because he gives great effort, he overcomes maybe he's not the fastest linebacker in the world, but he'll tackle, he'll hit, he's coachable, and I think he's done a really good job. We need him to continue to improve because, Kieran Douglas has had some knee concerns and wasn't able to play as much this past week, and we've got to continue to get Jacob ready to play even more.
And Bryce Hampton, Jeff, after not playing a snap against FAU, looked like he had a pretty good game for you guys. I think he was second in tackles. I know you need more bodies back there. Just talk about the importance of getting quality reps out of him and then getting Reese Taylor back last week too.
Bryce as well, he'd been upset that he didn't play in the last game, and he expressed that, which I like. I like guys that want to play and want to get on the field. So, we obviously lost the Syracuse game. That had a bad taste in everyone's mouth. We had to move forward. He's worked hard, got out there this past week, and you know what? He made tackles. He made plays. And we kind of put him in a position where that's kind of what he's best at. He's got to continue to work in pass coverage and doing those things to continue to get better. But we had him in a position where a little more zone, the ability to kind of creep in the box and beat the slot receiver on blocks and make tackles. That's his strength. So I do think he's a competitor. He wants to play. We've got to utilize him the best way we can, but definitely get him on the field because you are correct. He made tackles and he made plays.
Is there any update on T. Denson?
And, that's going to be a while. Unfortunately, he had the double hernia or sports hernia, and then they had to go back in a while back as well. So I don't see that happening anytime in the near future.
We've seen 5 Power 5 head coaches already lose their job, including obviously Paul Christ. Can you just talk to the pressure maybe some of these coaches feel, and you're seeing more and more of these decisions made before we're even at midseason yet?
Well, that's college football nowadays, and you feel for everybody because a lot of guys put a lot of hard work and time into it, and it's not easy. It's very competitive every week. you're one play away from winning or losing. And that's just why you got to be driven to work as hard as you can and do everything possible as a head coach, as a staff, as players, to go out there and compete and win. And all you can do is put your head down and work as hard as you can and let the pieces fall where they may. But I do think that, working at football year-round and studying and figuring out ways to have answers to things is just vital. And, we just got to, put our head down and go to work and do the best job we can.
How patient do you have to be as a play caller, knowing how teams have played you the last few games and knowing probably what you'll see in the future as far as sticking with the run and not trying to get too crazy with downfield passing?
It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. But winning is the goal, and I got to do the best job I possibly can in making sure that you do have that patience. As the season progresses, we're going to need it even more and more. If we can get better at running the ball, it can open up some things in the passing game. But teams are playing the pass, and I would as well. We have a really, really talented receiver on the outside, an accurate passer. We've had the ability to throw up the field, and teams are playing us deeper, and they're being smart about it, and we have to be patient, and we have to run the ball, and we have to pass it in desirable looks and not just in every look. So that's the challenge, but we have gotten a little bit better. We just got to continue to work through it.
Just the depth now that you have in the running back room, which you haven't had here in recent years, and two guys that, Dylan was a walk-on at one time. I don't know if is he on scholarship now? Dylan Downing?
Not right now, but
okay. So you have two walk-ons that have rushed for 100 yards the last two games, but just the depth now that you have in that room and just being able to turn to other options.
Well, both Dylan and Devin have worked really hard. They give great effort. They want to win. They're hungry. Coach Barkley does a great job with them. And we've had some injuries. So when you have injuries, you get an opportunity, and they've been ready. Dylan went through off-season surgery as well, was out all spring, but in the course of it, changed his body and came in great shape. And he's done a really, really good job for us. And then Devin, he'll continue to get bigger and stronger and learn things as he goes. But he competes. He runs hard. He's got some elusiveness to him. He's slippery when he runs. He's gotten better at catching the ball, and he's a competitor. And I just think that they have risen to the occasion when we've needed them. And we'll continue to push the envelope on that. But both guys, we're proud of what they've done to this point for us. Very proud of them.
Is Devin's nickname Crazy Legs?
Well, I think that's maybe what I call him. He just kind of, when he runs and cuts, you don't know which direction he's going, and it sometimes looks like he's double jointed in a couple of those areas. But you know what? He makes guys miss, and he's done a really good job. Like I said, he can get a whole lot bigger and stronger, and he will over the years. And he has a ways to go there, but it doesn't faze him. He still runs hard. He still runs through people. He has no fear when he runs, and I just think those traits are hard to teach. It's just something that he has in him through his family and through his background and makeup, and we're working as hard as we can with him to get him up to speed, but he's done a really, really good job.
Back to last week in Aiden's situation.
Hey, Jeff Brohm and the Boilers did run the ball well last week, so he's talking a lot about the run game, but also understands this is a pass-first offense. Aiden O'Connell's availability, very important. Brohm optimistic that his starting quarterback will be good for the Maryland game on Saturday. Remember, he was a game-time decision the last 2 weeks. Didn't play 2 weeks ago, did not play against Florida Atlantic. Of course, did play in that win this past weekend against Minnesota. Brohm hoping to get him even healthier this week. A little bit more practice time than he had last week heading into that Minnesota game. Tripleheader of football kicks off here on Big Ten Network with Purdue against Maryland. Then it's a pair of West Division matchups as Wisconsin takes on Northwestern, followed by a prime-time clash between Iowa and Illinois. Of course, it all starts with Big Ten Tailgate Saturday only on Big Ten Network and the Fox Sports app. As for the Michigan State schedule, an awfully tough ask this coming week. The good news is Spartans return home. The bad news, number 3 Ohio State is coming to town on the heels of 3 consecutive losses for Mel Tucker's crew, who have really struggled defensively, and that's not a good formula with C.J. Stroud and that receiving core in East Lansing this weekend. Let's hear from the head ball coach. We head to East Lansing. Here is Mel Tucker.
All right, good afternoon. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. After we spoke, after we last spoke, did watch the film of the game on the plane, and we got back. And it's like what I said, it's a death by inches for us, so it's all about execution. The question is, well, how do you get better execution? Well, that's our job. That's what we're working on right now. I feel like the defense played better in the second half. I'm seeing some improvements in some areas there, and I think our best football is ahead of us. Offense, started fast, but we have to sustain drives and make more explosive plays. Obviously, we had a lot of drops, and we had some penalties that killed drives. Special teams, we had some very irregular things that happened, which are all correctable, just really operational type of deals. And then again, I said it before, we have to play complementary football. We had offense, defense, and special teams have to work together for 60 minutes. I believe our best 60 is ahead of us. So we have a tremendous challenge this week with Ohio State. Obviously, we know they have a great football team. They're very well coached. We met as a team this morning. Attitudes were great. We just had our first practice for the week. Very, very focused, really good energy, more determined, attention to detail, sense of urgency, discipline. The communication is really good, and those are the things that you look for moving forward when guys are really into it and really focused in the meetings and on the field. Very upbeat and focused. So that's a good sign for us. We had a good start to the week, and we're excited to be back home in the woodshed. We know it's going to be loud. Our fans are going to be into it. So we're looking forward to being home. We're going to have some big time recruits at the game, so that's very important for us. And obviously we know Ohio State's a great football team. So with that, I'll open it up.
Hey, Mel, in the front to your left, I think. Can you kind of go through the challenge that Ohio State presents offensively? Obviously, we saw what they were capable of doing last week and with C.J. Stroud and just the weapons they have at their disposal.
Yeah, so the challenge is that they're very balanced. So they're extraordinary in the run game and also in the pass game, and they have arguably the best quarterback in the country. So, everyone's at the point of attack on every play.
So Elijah Collins seems to be getting like a more featured role. What have you guys seen from him out of practice that's just kind of led to that move up the depth chart?
Yeah, well, it's with the production that you see in the game from him, that's what we see in practice. So, and it's been consistent, and he's been improving, and so he's earned the opportunities to go in the game. And then when he's gone in the game, he's done well, and he has a really good attitude. He works really hard. He's a great teammate, and he does an excellent job on special teams. So he's very unselfish, and he's hungry, and so, and I think that's why he's been productive in the role that he's had so far.
I'm wondering, just one play in particular, that 68-yard run in the second half. I'm wondering what happened on the communication there between Brooks and Williams, and it seemed like they weren't in the right place, then they got in the right place, and then maybe missed some tackles. Is that kind of like one of those plays that's kind of epitomizing that death by inches in some ways?
Yeah, that was a good question. That was KB and speed there. Yeah. So we actually got into the right call, and we need to be aligned closer to the line of scrimmage to make that actually an easier play, and then we need to align. Amir needs to align maybe 2 yards wider. But we have two unblocked players there to make a play on one guy. So that's a play that should be made. That's actually should be a tackle for loss. We're actually, coming off the edge there.
Is that one of those plays, though, that they were in the right spot to begin with, and just less thinking and maybe?
Yeah, even in the spots that they were in, that should be a tackle for loss. And at a 3-yard gain at the most, even where they were. I mean, they weren't far off, but from a detail standpoint, better alignment, the correct alignment, obviously could make a difference.
Mel, you've been a part of upsets throughout your career, I'm guessing on both ends and whatnot, probably dating, I think you were a grad assistant when you guys beat Ohio State in 98 or what. Are there dynamics that are important in a matchup where there's something that hasn't shown up on film yet in terms of when you look at a matchup that you need to happen this week to beat a team that's performing at the level they are?
Yeah, you have to, first of all, you have to believe. That's one. And then you have to strip the name off the jersey, okay, and go to work, preparation, and go and play the next play, during the game. Just take it from the meeting room to the practice field. Do it so many times right in practice where you can't get it wrong in the game. Then you take it to the game, you play one play at a time, never looking at the scoreboard, just keep playing. And so there's not anything real complicated about it, but it starts with the belief, and then it goes from there.
Mel, they got a new defensive coordinator over this year. I'm just wondering, what's different on that side of the ball that you're seeing from them from previous years?
Yeah, I like what Knowles is doing. They're very decisive on defense, and they play fast. They have a lot of speed, and they flow fast to the ball. So they're going to make sure that you can't run the ball inside, and want to make you run the ball sideways, and they want to, use their speed to track you down and make sure they got good edges. So they're playing fast, and they're very it seems like they know where their help is and where they fit.
It's one of those things you turn on and we didn't see like this is different.
I think they're just playing fast. They're playing fast, and they have a lot of good players, and they're on the same page. And so, that's what I see. I see execution and playing fast and being physical.
Mel, as you stress the urgency to get better, how do you maintain a calm amidst the storm being 3 straight losses? How do you do that?
Yeah, well, first block out the noise, and that's important. And the most important thing is what we do next. And anger, frustration, woulda, coulda, shoulda, all those things, really, they don't really help you move forward because it's all about what we have to do right now. So you learn from the past, whether it's good or bad, and you own it, whatever it is, you own it, and then you get to neutral, decide what's the next best step to take, and you take that step, and then you take the next step and the next step. And that's the process. That's how you do it. Yes.
Hey, Mel, in the front here again. I think it's been a couple of weeks since we could have asked you, but can you talk about or describe how Ken Talley came about, going to use at Penn State briefly and coming here?
Yeah, he became available, and then we acted on it, and that's pretty much it.
And what are your projections for him, how he fits into your scheme, and are you applying for a waiver to try and make him eligible?
Yeah, I don't have a projection for him at this time, so really focus on the guys that are available to play for us right now.
Did you guys find on the field to get him eligibility right away?
Yeah, that's not something that I'm really focused on right now, so he'll be ready when he's ready.
Mel, I think your teams have won 8 of the last 9 at home. You've talked about the crowd, how important that's been for you when it's had that kind of support. You know what Ohio State's traveling party can be like, and if they're coming up here trying to buy tickets, how important do you think it is for your crowd to show up and not to be selling seats on Saturday morning?
It's important. It's very important. So I know that our fans are going to show up, and I know they're going to be loud, and I know they're going to be into it. So it's very important. Our home field should be an advantage for us.
Is it important that you get off to a good start, even more than normal for that, to get your crowd into the game instead of having them taken out of it?
Yes, it's going to be important that we get off to a great start, regardless. But obviously, our crowd is wanting to see good football, great football, and execution, and that's what we aim to deliver.
Other than Darius Snow last year, Angelo Gross was the most productive for you on defense against Ohio State. How do you hope or anticipate that he performs in that way this year? And also, how much better has he been since moving to the nickel spot, and why? Why is that?
Yeah, Jello did a nice job at the nickel spot. That's a spot that's good for him, and he didn't have as much work at the position as we would like in practice, but the work that he got in maybe a practice and a half, he showed what he's shown in the past at that position, because initially that's where he played as a freshman when he stepped on the field. And so I feel like he's going to get better because he's going to get more time on task in practice, and it's important. That's a very important position for us. And so I feel good about him there. I think his best football's ahead of him. What was the second part of your question?
Just about how important it'll be for him to have that production against a team like Ohio State, but still win these field guys.
Yeah, so it puts a lot of pressure on your defense, and it's not just the D-line or the linebackers or the corners. I mean, that nickel position is critically important for the run game, perimeter run support, the RPO game, and then also in coverage. You have to be a really good tackler, and you have to be adjustable. They have a lot of shifts and a lot of motions and things like that. So he has experience, so it's going to be important that we get high-level production from him at that position.
Well, you mentioned it being a big recruiting weekend. I'm just wondering, how does what's happening on the field affect? I mean, that's not going to affect how you're recruiting, but does it become tougher, or does it change at all when things aren't going well in the field, as opposed to obviously when things are rolling? Does it get tougher, I guess?
Yeah, I think it depends on who you're recruiting and what they're looking for, and what is their criteria. If I'm a recruit and I'm being recruited by Michigan State, I'm saying that's a place that is hungry to win football games. They have a great fan base, great alumni support, it's big-time football, and I have an opportunity to go in there and contribute. If I come in here and I'm ready to play and I do what I'm supposed to do, and I can be part of the build, and the emergence and the surge moving forward. And those are the type of guys we need. We need guys that want to come in here and do something significant and do something extraordinary.
Hey, Mel, you said Ohio State, something that impressed you about their defense is the way they're on the same page. Mm-hmm. With your defense, did you see progress in that area, or defense more on the same page in this game?
Yes, yeah, I do. I see that. I see gaining more experience, learning how to play more together, and that's important, and to get the right group of guys together so that we can play sound, solid football, good team defense. You have to know your job and do it well, and trust that the guy next to you knows his job and he's going to do his job well, so we can all play fast and be physical and trust what we're doing, trust the call, and go execute.
Meanwhile, you have a freshman starting. How did he do with his first significant?
Yeah, it was a good start for him. He played hard, and he was into it. I didn't see any hesitation from him, and so and he's shown that in practice, and so his best football is ahead of him.
You guys have faced a run of pretty seasoned and talented quarterbacks. It doesn't make making changes on the fly any easier. And I'm wondering what C.J. Stroud presents in terms of the differences from what you faced to this point.
Yeah, so he's a he's a very accurate passer, and he's really smart, and he's tough, and he's really good with the getting those guys into the right plays, and he knows where to go with the ball in the passing game, and so he's very efficient, and he's good with the short throws, the intermediate throws, and obviously the deep ball, and then he's mobile, so he can extend plays with his legs, and he's always looking downfield to make plays. But if he needs to, he can pull it down and run, and advance the ball and to score, or to move the chains, or and slide and get what he can get. So he's that guy that can do all of those things consistently.
I know a few players have changed for them on offense, but how much do you use last year's film to now get ready for Saturday's game?
Yeah, we certainly have to. We study that the last year's film to see what's carrying over and what's not, and then what any success that we had or anything that hurt us, we can expect to see those things again. But so that's part of the breakdown. That's part of the we take that into account when we game plan, when we watch film. That's certainly one of the games that we study.
Looking back at the film, particularly the second half, what changed with Peyton? It seemed like some of his throws were a little off the mark, and maybe some of the decisions that he made with running out of bounds on the one play, and then a couple of the other decisions that he made. I guess when you watched it back, what maybe was different than the first half?
Yeah, I don't know if there was anything that was different. I mean, we just, from an execution standpoint, we have to execute better and more consistently. And it's not just him, but it's everyone involved. We had a lot of drops. We had some penalties that killed drives. So we had missed opportunities, so it all contributes to, how it looks out there.
Mel, I think you were 9-1 and playing for a championship last year when you went to Columbus, kind of ran into a buzzsaw there. How do you stop?
Thanks for that.
How do you stop one score or one big play by them from turning into the kind of 21 or 28 point blitz they get so often?
Yeah, if you can stop that one, stop it, then it doesn't happen. That helps. And then you always have to play the next play. I mean, so it's just like I told the players this morning. The first thing I told them this morning, okay, I said, write this down. Okay, you will always be defined on how you handle adversity, how you respond to adversity, not just on the football field, but beyond, outside of football, in life. How you, because you're going to be in adverse situations. I mean, it's everything. We're all adults here. We know that everything is not always peaches and cream. I mean, there's bumps in the road, and some are severe, and some not so much. But there's adversity, and it doesn't get any easier as you go. I mean, you're sitting here waiting for the easy bus to come around. The easy bus isn't coming. So how do you handle it? How do you handle adversity? Like, so if you, I told him, I said, like, it's going to be, like your kids, your children, there's going to be adversity, and they're going to be watching to see how you respond. It could be, your family members, they're going to watch you and see how you respond. Your friends, how do you respond to adversity? And that's important. And so, for example, you give an example, if they score on a big play, right? So how do you handle that? So what we tell the players is, and we talk to them about this on a consistent basis, and it's like this on football, and it's like this in life, okay? It's what's important now, and we behave our way to success, which is the actions that we take That's what creates the outcome. And it's all about what we do next. So the call comes in, play call comes in, offense, defense, and special teams. Okay? So you communicate, you get the call. And then you review your assignment, right? And then quickly review your assignment, and then you play the play, and you apply force. Okay? And then you need a quick evaluation of that play. A quick evaluation of that play, good or bad. And it's about a 6-second play. And you evaluate it, good or bad, and then you own it. Whatever was bad, you own it. If it's good, you own it. And then you get to neutral, okay, and then you go to the next play. Now, that takes mental toughness, but it's both ways, though. I mean, you score, you make a big play on defense or a big play on special teams or a big play on offense. It's important that you evaluate it. Why did I have success? Okay, well, I need to make sure I continue to do that. And then you own it, okay? And then you got to move on because you're only as good as your next play. So you have to keep going. Same thing with adversity. And that's neutral thinking. I mean, that's how it goes, you know. So you drive into work, boom, I got a flat tire, okay, I'm gonna be late, okay, well, this is the facts. I mean, like, it's not good, bad, right, or wrong, it just is what it is. What do I need to do now, right? And then you take that next right step and then you move forward. You can't have the poor me's because that's not gonna do anything for you. And so, that's how we coach our guys. And there's no secret to it. It's just mental toughness, it's mindset, it's mental conditioning, and it's focus. And focus is a skill.
A lot of vehicle references there from Mel Tucker, talking about the car breaking down, talking about the easy bus, saying that his team, everybody, will always be defined how they handle adversity and respond to adversity, not just on the field. In Tuck's words, quote, you wait for the easy bus to come around. Well, the easy bus isn't coming. Certainly not this weekend, not with Ohio State coming to town.
Brown is a breakaway. Chase Brown is off to the races, and Brown is gone for 6. 49 yards for the Illinois touchdown.
Things, meanwhile, have come pretty easily for Chase Brown and the Illini as of late. Went up to Madison, really tough place to play, and just laid it on Wisconsin. 34-10 the final. First win up in Madison since 2002. Of course, Bret Bielema spent some pretty good years up in Madison as the Wisconsin head coach, and now he is leading an Illini team that is 4-1 and headed into prime time. Saturday night showdown with Iowa under the lights at Memorial Stadium in Champaign, a game you can see right here on Big Ten Network. Before that, let's hear from the Illini head man as we take you to Champaign and check in with Bret Bielema.
Obviously, a lot of good things came out of Saturday. One of the things that we talked about doing was being able to take the current team that we're in and onto the past and try to move it forward. And I thought our guys put in a good week of prep, and to see it materialize on Saturday was really good. Came out pretty healthy. I know you guys will ask that question. So really nobody that went over there with us was affected in a way. Josh McCray continues to go forward. I know he did really well on Sunday. Yesterday, the doctors were upbeat. I meet with the doctors every Sunday, and I hadn't seen Josh because he didn't make the trip, but they were happy with where his running was on Sunday. So we'll wait and see where that goes. It's going in the right direction. I know he's excited, but we want to make sure we think Josh has got a very bright career for not only this time in front of us, but in the future. So we'll see where that is. It's in the doctor's hands and Josh's recovery. A couple things that jumped out to me. So we award our guys MVPs and do it really in all three phases: offense, defense, and also look team. And the guys that win it on look team are a lot of times guys that I think their aspiration wasn't to come to Illinois and become a look team MVP, right? But Jordan Anderson was on offense, and I thought during the course of the week last week, the things he showed during practice really get me excited about what he can be down the future, right? A guy like Luke Zardzin was a non-scholarship player that comes in and proves every day that he probably can eventually play at this level and do some really good things. Owen Anderson on offense, as well. There's just a lot of players. So you see guys getting better, but we gave Palcho, we gave 4 or 5 guys, I think Pat Bryant, Isaiah, Palcho, Tommy, and Chase were our offensive MVPs. But when I was watching the film, I thought Palcho probably played the most complete football game since we've been here, right? And a year ago when we made a request to the NCAA to get him waived to play with us this year, I know it was a big deal, but it was a big deal for me for one reason, because I thought we could take his level of play to a different level. He's had the most career starts in college football, probably when it's all said and done, but I really thought because we didn't have that first year with him in a development phase through winter conditioning and through the spring and during the summer because of his injury, we could maybe take him to a different level of play, and that's exactly what's happened. But playing right next to him is a guy by the name of Zy Chrysler, right? And Zy didn't join us till January, and he played his best game on Saturday. Really challenged him during the course of the week. He's very athletic, very strong, a very good football IQ, but it was a guy that I thought, through 4 games had just kind of, stayed at a status quo. I thought he could take it to another level, and for him to do what he did on Saturday, it gets you really excited. I think another great indication of what's happening in our program, maybe not from news articles or for everybody to get excited about on the outside world, but for me as a head coach, there's all kinds of those little things going on. It affects recruiting, so I can call a transfer guard and talk about a guy that I got in January. We took him from 360 to 330, and he's playing in a way that a year from now he's probably going to have to make an NFL college decision, right? It affects us because in this new world of NIL, the things that are being afforded to our offensive and defensive linemen that are here on campus, and that I can go then into a recruit and say, hey, I can't promise you this, but this is what our players are currently getting, a $12,000 here, a $5,000 deal there. It's like very, very positive things that just continue to help our program in so many ways. When you win games, good things happen. So the byproduct of that is there's excitement, right? I met with Bret every day about, opportunities for media, and it's just steadily increased from that first week to where we are today, that now you got to start saying no, and it's my job as a head coach to teach our guys, with success brings, people that want to be around you, they want to talk to you. But also because of that, there's a cousin that creeps in this world called complacency, right? And you just think these things are going to happen. And that brings victims out of all of us, right? So with our coaches, our players, anybody in that Smith Center, that's our big challenge. And the other big challenge, I know we've been engaged, I'm sure you've seen it on social media. For the first time in my career here at Illinois, we've won a couple games back-to-back, several games in a row here in Memorial Stadium, dating back last year to Northwestern. 6:30 game, I think it's only the third time since 2014 or over the last 14 years, whatever it was, that there's going to be a night game, Big Ten night game here in Memorial Stadium. So a lot of reasons to get excited, and I would really encourage people, if you haven't bought a ticket yet, if you're thinking about it, bring a friend, bring a buddy, bring a couple buddies, bring a bus, I don't care, show up, and let's be loud on Saturday, because I think it's going to be a great environment of college football. So with that, open up for questions.
Some of Pat, expecting long term with Pat, do you think Pat Bryant be able to go?
Oh yeah, Pat. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Pat could go on Saturday. I think he realized when we were up 24 points, the opportunities for the throw game was probably significantly decreased, and made an executive decision to pop out. He was very gifted in dance moves in the locker room, I saw. So that's when I grabbed him. I said, how you feeling? He goes, oh, I'm fine, Coach. Okay. So I could have answered that same question on the presser afterwards.
A lot of games you go into, you don't know what the opponent's going to do. That's usually not true with Iowa.
Yeah.
Are there unique things about facing a team that has such an established identity?
It's something to think about, just the longevity, right? So I wasn't really recruited by Hayden Fry, but I like to say that, right? So I arrived on campus as a walk-on when Hayden Fry was there. And to think about since the day I arrived there, I believe in the spring of 1987, to where we are now in 2022, there's only been 2 head coaches, right? And Coach Fry did a lot of great things. I was with him, and then I was able to be with Kirk and Phil Parker, the defensive coordinator. He and I sat in that defensive meeting room over on the side. Norm Parker was across from us. Ron Aiken was in there. There's a guy by the name of Rob Smith, who's now the defensive coordinator at Duke. We sat in there and pieced that defense together and built it because it was unlike anything they had done there before. So I really owe a lot of my defensive education to those initial couple of years with Kirk at Iowa, with Norm Parker. And Phil has just continued to build that same defense layer after layer after layer. So, yeah, Coach Lane and I were watching film this morning. There's a lot of carryover that goes on offensively. Obviously, Brian has a lot of the same values that his father has and what they do offensively. Special teams, LeVar Woods. I recruited LeVar Woods, or helped recruit LeVar Woods out of northwest corner of Iowa a long time ago when I was an assistant there. So those guys have been in place doing the things they do. But every week is a game change, game plan opportunity for everybody. And the DNA might be there, but the look may change week to week, and we got to be ready for that.
Last week, your big message was this is about Illinois football, not your return. You've had a couple days to reflect on, the win and going into Wisconsin and taking them down. How do you feel? What's going through your head?
Wisconsin's behind us, right? Obviously, I understand the news that happened. Reached out to Paul this morning, had a conversation with him, and just probably a realization in today's world of college football, you never truly know the moment that you're living in. But for us, we really turned the page on Wisconsin yesterday, and that includes me. I did share with the team last night. Everybody wants to make a big deal of my history at Wisconsin. I probably have more history at Iowa, right? I was a player there. I was a graduate assistant there. I got my first coaching job there. I was part of 2 staffs there. I was part of the staff that's there now. I think I probably actually have a little bit more history because it's a little bit different look at Iowa, but that doesn't factor into anything. I got the tattoo, right? The famous tattoo. A hell of an idea when you're 19, so that's just part of it. I think our guys were into the moment, but I quickly asked them to turn the page yesterday. We specifically put the game to bed, offense, defense, special teams. We had a team meeting on the front end that I talked about the game that we played. We watched the film. We came back in, and then I introduced the Iowa schedule and what we're going to do this week. And then we went into a meeting, offense, defense, special teams about Iowa. And we had our victory meal, and then today they have it off, and tomorrow we'll jump into our on-the-field preparation. So I get the question, but it's really not any different.
You seem to take pride in developing coaches to be head coaches. Ryan's obviously being mentioned, given what you guys are doing. So why is that a source of pride for you, and how do you try to help prepare them?
Yeah, when I took over my first job as a head coach, Bill Snyder actually had one of the great messages to me. I talked to everybody, right? Coach Ferentz called me that day. Coach Fry called me that day. I was obviously with Coach Alvarez. And one of the things Coach Snyder said to me, he said, what you want to do is go out and try to hire as many guys like you as you can. They may not look like you, may not talk like you, they may not have your background, your history, and your pedigree, but you want to hire as many people that want to be head coaches as you can. And that has always stuck with me. So on my first staff, I had obviously Paul Christ, who became a head coach. I had Charlie Partridge, who became a head coach. I had Dave Dorn, who became a head coach. I had Chris Ash, who a year later, who eventually became a head coach. There's a couple guys that I think are off that original staff that still have a chance to do it. And then when I came here after being around Ryan for a very short amount of time, I knew he would get a head coaching job. It's just a matter of when. So I constantly bring him in. I think Josh, as an athletic director, we both agreed, like, hey, let's do everything we can to keep him here as long as we can, but also let's prepare him so when that moment comes, he can have success. Barry Lunny will be a head coach. I truly believe that George McDonald, and Kevin Kane, Aaron Henry. There's several guys I believe in our building that will eventually be head coaches at some point. It's just you can tell those things usually a lot by how they coach and how they educate their players, but also how they treat and understand the big picture, how they handle the media, their personalities, their demeanor, their dynamics. But Ryan, the good thing about Ryan, I think he's one of the most patient people I've ever been around, from the way he calls a defense to the way he manages and handles his family. Just a really, truly exceptional person that when those moments come, they'll be great.
Why do you think he'll make a good coach eventually?
I think he understands people. He's able to, I always say this, like he's an ambidextrous recruiter. Like you can send Ryan into, L.A., you can send him into Miami, you can send him into Chicago, you can send him into Kankakee, Illinois, you can send him into Boston, Massachusetts, and he's going to be the same guy in every one of those homes that people are attracted to and want to be around. He has a very quiet confidence. I think when people come in and have to be loud to show that they're confident, that's usually false, and it's usually something that can be seen through. So I just think he carries a lot of the characteristics in the right environment to be successful.
You used the term rebirth for what's happening for Tommy here at Illinois on Saturday. I'm curious, in the preseason or when you got him,
Was there an emphasis about trying to make football fun for him again, and just after everything that happened to him at Syracuse and the punishment he took?
Yeah. I would say it probably is a grassroots of what you just said, right? Like, I don't know if it was 86 or 96. It was a big number that he got knocked down during his last couple of years at Syracuse. And I don't care if you're a WWE wrestler. No one likes to get knocked down 86 times, right? Like, that's just not fun. So there was an emphasis on keeping him clean, making him play on his feet. He's definitely a fun guy, right, man? Like, I walked outside the stadium in Madison and said hello to some of my family, and I saw his dad. His dad came running right over, and he goes, "We're on to Illinois." I said, "Absolutely, Tom. Right, we're on to Illinois." Like, instantaneous, like that. Got a hug from his mom. They're just really warm people, and raised a great kid. I think we're scratching the surface where we're at. Barry and I had a great conversation yesterday about our offense, just kind of where it's at. But I kept encouraging him to just continue to be him, right? Because Coach Lunny he's only in the 5th week of this thing, right? And he's continuing to understand what his tools are, what people do well, understand our defenses, what works well against them, the defenses that we're going to face. So it's really an exciting time to be around our offense and Tommy in general.
Ryan just told us that there's a lot of, not quoting directly, but wants to see improvement defensively. Yeah. What is improvement like for this defense?
For the defense? Yeah, well, first series, right? I think our guys, when that first series got done, I might have said this the other day, I always, as a head coach, one of the advantage points I have is just geography. I get to watch my coaches watch my coaches work, and then I get to watch the reaction of those players who are working with them. And when a coach walks away, he may be heading that direction, look that way, and his player's looking right at him, and the player will do one of three things. He'll kind of either roll his eyes, or he'll just kind of like give it a heads, or he might give it another expression, right? Like, I watch those things to see how well they're taking the coaching they're being given. And our kids, it's like they're at a Golden Corral 24/7. They just want to eat, man. They just they love the knowledge. They know that anything that they've been given to them. Just a little thing. It's not a little thing. It's a huge thing. Taz made a nice little corner edge pressure blitz that took the running back, I think, a little bit by surprise. And if you truly look at that play, a lot of times you can tell where corner blitzes are coming from because of a tip. And there is no tip. There's no tell. There's no and I believe Taz is a very intelligent football player, but he was coached to do that, right? And the thing that I think gets lost in the shuffle, and everybody wants to give, and believe me, Ryan Walters deserves all the credit in the world, but our players are playing at a high level because they're taking coaching and they're applying it to the practice field. And when they apply it to the practice field, practice habits become game day reality, and game day reality gives you game day results, and game day results are what we're looking for. And that there's a lot of that going on in our building right now on defense for sure, but also in all three phases.
After the Chattanooga game, when Chase set a record with 5th straight 100-yard rushing game, I think that's just what you do.
Yeah.
So, surprised. I mean, he did it again.
Yeah.
Was there an indication, like when you first got here, maybe first, they watched the film or found out about him, was like he could be that guy?
I didn't watch one stitch of film on our players when I got here. I didn't watch one. I'd watch some clips just to, when Josh called, just to kind of find out where we were at. But I made a very conscientious decision that I wanted to view and grade our players off of what I saw, all right, when I started working with them, because I didn't know how they've been coached. I didn't know if they've been told how to play through a whistle. I didn't know if they've been told how to break out of a quick turn. I didn't know if they'd been taught how to fire off the ball with low hips, like all the things that you look for. So I constantly didn't do that. But I would say during winter conditioning, I saw him break. I saw him accelerate. In spring football, I saw him run. I knew he didn't quite understand the tempo of a running back. I knew that takes a little bit of time. So the pieces were all there. But, yeah, the expectation, I find it incredibly at times humorous, but also very frustrating because when I heard the stat about number of 100-yard rushers, or when he got his 1,000 yards, what number that broke, or the record that it broke, and I'm like, man, I followed a bet and did this in the past, right? Like, this is what we have to do. This is our expectation. And I was very excited to beat Wisconsin at Wisconsin, but it's really, it wasn't a ranked opponent. There weren't two ranked teams on the football field. There wasn't it was two good teams that, fought it out and battled it out. But we came here to be ranked. We came here to win championships. We came here to play at the highest level, and everybody's making a big deal. I got mad last year, kind of in retrospect, after that Nebraska game, the way we won at the beginning, I was excited for everybody, but I didn't realize everybody lost their mind, right? And they just thought it was going to happen. So then we made our way back, and then we beat Penn State, we beat Minnesota, and everybody's freaking out. Like, that should be what we expect, right? So in our building, we expect it as football players, we expect it as football coaches, and then in our athletic department, hopefully they expect us to win games, go to bowl games, sell out that stadium, do all the things. That's got to be the standard. That's got to be the expectation, not the exception, right? There's a huge difference. And until we win more consistently over a course of time, that's the fight that I'm always trying to get through, is to understand this is what we're expecting to do. This isn't just kind of by luck, or this isn't just a short-term thing. This is what we expect to happen.
Barry said halftime Saturday, Chase obviously hadn't done much, but he was still awfully confident that it was going to happen. Just has that always been kind of what you've seen from him?
So at halftime I kind of said to the defense, keep doing what you're doing. It's a 0-0 game. Let's just, on defense, let's make sure we don't let one go over our heads. They're going to play action fake us. They're going to do something, continue to play against the run. And offense, I said, hey, just keep chopping wood, right? Like you guys, there was a couple plays I saw from behind. I always try to watch the offense from behind. I always try to watch the defense from in front. But from behind, I could see he was literally he could have pulled his foot through on one tackle. Like he just barely got him. There was so many plays were about ready to let him break. And then I literally remember being on the headset when that play happened. I knew the play. I saw the pullers come. And when he got through that first level, I just said, he gone, right? And then somebody said, there's a backside safety pursuit. I'm like, no, he gone. I knew no one was going to catch him because he'd been kind of anticipating that break.
You got votes this week in both polls. That's not a big deal that you got now.
I didn't even know we got votes. Swear to goodness. No, it's awesome. Some people have been asking me, do you think you expect ranked? And I said no, but I did say I thought we would get some recognition. But we haven't played a ranked opponent in this level. We're obviously a team that this week has got a tremendous challenge in front of us. Obviously, Iowa isn't ranked either, and I'm sure Kirk isn't. He's used to being ranked and up there in the middle of it as well. So we're kind of finding our way. I'm excited for that. That's a good indication. We've been trying to talk to our players about getting respect, right? And you get respect one day at a time. But if people are starting to respect us, that's a great thing. But we obviously got a long way to go.
You mentioned that.
Go back to Coach Christ. That's happened now 5 times today in the Power 5. Coaches getting fired mid-season. Besides the personal relationship, how do you feel about that whole thing?
Well, it's a great reminder, right? Like the reason I call Paul is I've been in that rodeo, right? Like I've been fired. I've been in that day after. I shot him an early text, and thankfully we crossed, and just want to let him know what I learned through that experience. I remember I appreciated the calls that I got that day. But it's a grim reminder of the world we live in. However it came about, I think it reminds me, I'm a pretty easygoing guy, right? Until I feel someone is not allowing our program to be great, that's when I have a problem, right? And I told guys when I took the job, listen, the guy you saw at Wisconsin, the guy that you were with at Arkansas has learned, right, like what brought failure. And when I see that, I'm not going to tolerate it. I don't care. We've in that building, in the Smith Center, I've transitioned out of some people that were here for a long time that I knew didn't know the path that we needed to be on, and I would do it again 100 times over because I knew where we could go, right? And sometimes those decisions aren't easy. Those are very, very hard things to do. As a head coach, you have to make hard decisions every day. But when you make them and they go the way that you know they're going to go, you feel so much better on the back end because you saved a lot of other people a lot of adversity, right? And I had a coach grab me yesterday that's in our building, and right, he made reference of where we are right now versus where we were a year ago, and if we hadn't made change, what that would be, right? But I see the way our players are equipped. I made changes there, right? I see the way that we have operations. I made changes there. Anything that touches our program, from the way we arrive at the stadium in a semi-truck, to the way that we travel, to the way that we perform on the football field, that's all touching our players, and I feel that's my responsibility. And that's why you got to be able to make hard decisions.
You mentioned that the more Coach Loney gets to know his personnel and what their capabilities are, the more he's able to pull out of them on the field. Could you expand on that a little bit, how it's kind of manifested itself on the field?
Yeah, so you guys go back 2 weeks ago after the Chattanooga game, Isaiah Williams said something to me that was very telling, right? He was asked a question about Barry Loney's offense, and Coach Isaiah, who's a very intelligent player, said he's always looking to put us in a position to have success. He's always looking for ways to get us the ball and be creative in the way he does it. It's never the same. you know, if you look at us on offensive film, like we're a very unique preparation in this conference. There's so many things that, you know, I'm sure it gets glossed over, but I think we were the seventh we're rated seventh in the country in time of possession with a hurry-up offense. Do the math on that, right? You have to really, truly understand what Barry's offense is and what we're trying to do and the balance that we can have in the running game. I knew that we would just keep leaning on them Saturday, leaning on them, and then we'd break one, you know. And we got the ball in the perimeter in a hurry. Just little things here and there that, you know, excite you. And, like, he would be the first to tell you, we had to call 2 timeouts in the fourth quarter, and he's apologizing profusely because he's like, I got caught up in a moment. I didn't get the right call. I'm like, hey, we're okay. We're up 24 points. We're good. We can use these timeouts in the most effective manner possible. So he's a very hungry person. Again, the pedigree that he comes from, like a lot of you don't know his dad. Like, his dad is truly one of the best high school coaches that ever walked the state of Arkansas. Like, really just a very exceptional coach that raised a really good kid, and the byproduct of it is the one that we're getting right now.
Obviously, a lot of questions to Bret Bielema about the firing of Paul Chryst, the guy who was on his staff up in Madison. Bielema did announce that he texted Chryst this morning, offering a little bit of support, telling him he had been in that situation, of course, after his firing at Arkansas. According to Bielema, quote, reminds everybody in coaching, you never know the moment that you are living in. Well, this is the moment that the Big Ten West is jumbled up at the top. Illinois, Purdue, Northwestern, Minnesota, Iowa, all 1-1. Of course, no unbeatens left in the Big Ten West through 5 weeks. Illinois has Iowa this week and Minnesota next week. We are likely to have a lot more clarity after the games of Saturday, October the 15th. Congrats to Mickey Joseph picking up that first win as the interim head coach of Nebraska. 35-21 the final over Indiana. Huskers outscored the Hoosiers 14-0 in the fourth quarter to win, get this, their first game against FBS opposition in 364 days. And now it is time for Nebraska to try and build on that win with a schedule that over the next couple of weeks could be considered very manageable. At Rutgers this Friday for an FS1 game, and then on the road once again to take on Purdue. That'll be a primetime game week 7 in West Lafayette. Still, always good to get some positive mojo inside the locker room, and that is exactly what Mickey Joseph and the Huskers have.
It's good to get back, you know, on a short week. A lot of momentum coming with the win on Saturday. Thought the boys played well in all 3 phases. Indiana was one game now. The sign of a good team is who can move forward and get to the next one. We have a 24-hour rule, so it's 24 hours, and now we're on to Rutgers. The schedule is going to be accelerated because we're going to, you know, we got to move some days up because we're going to leave on Thursday. We're going to leave Thursday. Usually you leave on Friday, so everything has to be accelerated, so everything's going to be pushed up a day before it's practice. So we're doing it. We're doing that right now. Appreciate the coaches and the players for adapting to what we're trying to do. Questions?
When it comes to player traits, how high does toughness rank on your list, and how tough has Casey been for the first 5 games?
Well, toughness on my list, growing up in my family, you had to be tough, physically and mentally, and so it's number 1 on my list. If I question your toughness, then I can't play you. So if I had a friend and my dad didn't think he was tough, I couldn't hang with that guy. So toughness is high on the Joseph list, so it's high at Nebraska football right now.
How tough is Casey been?
Casey's tough. Casey comes from a tough family. You know, Charles raised tough kids. You know, he's from Oklahoma City, but Casey's been tough. He's been getting hit, but he's been getting up. You know, he's been getting up. When he was down on the turf, he took my arm. He said, "Hey, Mick, I'm going back in the game." I said, "Okay, that's what I expect you to do." They know I want him to be tough.
And Mickey, when you watch the tape of the O-line, where do you feel they're at right now? What needs to get better to make that a little bit more consistent up front?
I think they're doing a great job of run blocking right now. We got to work on our pass pro. But I think, you know, when you shuffle them in and out, you got to get your best 5 on the field. But right now, I think, you know, it's not where we want them at, but they're getting better every day in practice with Donnie. Donnie's doing a really good job of getting them out there. So they're getting better doing it. And as coaches, we got to make sure we're helping them with the scheme.
What do you do at right tackle this week with Hunter Anthony and Bryce Benhart? You rotate those guys, or what's your plan with those guys this week?
Yeah, they were 49 and 44 snaps, so they split it. They split it, so we're going to rotate them again.
How did Hunter do, kind of get his first major play?
I thought Hunter played okay. I didn't think he played great, but I thought he played okay. He held his own. Guys, it's 86 plays in a game. It's going to be some mental errors. It's going to be some physical errors. That's going to happen. Now it's about getting the kid to overcome it and get to the next play. So the big thing, if you do make a bad play, get to the next play. Don't let that one play beat you twice. But I think those two kids together, that they can give us a solid right tackle performance on Saturday.
Mickey, did you get a chance? You had mentioned you were going to look at Turner Corcoran film. You didn't mention if you were going to kill. Did you get a chance to see the tape yet?
Well, we're waiting on it. We're waiting on the Big Ten right now. We're waiting on the Big Ten right now before I comment on it, because I don't want to say how I feel, and then the Big Ten say something, so I don't want to, get some bad enemies because I said something I had no business saying. So I'm not going to comment it on right now until I let them comment first.
Hey, Mickey, over here. What do you make of the Big Ten West, six-way tie for first place, and the so-called preseason favorite is winless and let go of their coach?
Well, I think it's football that you don't know what's going to happen. I think everything in athletics is day to day, and then on games is week to week. But it's the Wild West right now. Everybody's fighting. But if you look at the games are coming down to the fourth quarter. It's really tough games. It's coming down to the fourth quarter. So we're going to take one game at a time. We got Rutgers, and we got to get ready for Rutgers. But the West is wild right now.
I mean, and given what you guys have gone through and where you want to get to this year, the fact that the division seems to be pretty much up in the air, is that a favorable thing for you given the situation that you guys are in right now?
I think it works in everybody's favor right now, just because it's kind of balanced right now. So I think it works in everybody's favor. But like you said, we're going to take one game at a time, and it's all you can do right now is just worry about getting ready for Rutgers right now and not worry about what's going on in the West. But I'm sure everybody notices, that it's 1-1 or 0-2. But it's nothing you can control right now. You just can control what you're going to do against Rutgers.
Hey, Mickey, did you notice a different pep in the step after a win? Guys worked so hard and they were finally rewarded with a conference win.
Well, that was the big emotional part for me, was just seeing their faces after the game, because they've been in so many close games that they hadn't closed out. So just the moment in the locker room, seeing the relief on their face, like, okay, we know we can do it. You can always tell somebody, oh, I know you can do it, but if they never do it, then they're going to have doubts. But they didn't have any doubts in the fourth quarter. We asked them to finish in the fourth quarter, asked them to strain to finish, and they did, and they won the fourth quarter. But they practiced that way. They practiced that way for the last 2 weeks.
What was the biggest difference on defense in your mind? What was that? Why were you able to force 8 3-and-outs and all that?
Well, Sip, we talked about it last week. We said what we're going to do, get them lined up. Get lined up. That's the big thing on defense. Just get them lined up. My brother Vance yesterday, he got his team to line up. When you can get them lined up, now they can recognize what's going on and recognize formation. That's the big key, recognizing what's going on, but you got to recognize the formation. So I thought they lined up there and they played with their hair on fire.
Mickey, in the first few weeks here, when you look at where the team was and where they are now and the improvements, what do you look at and say that's what I'm most proud of?
That they're trying to be physical.
Mickey, what have you made of Malcolm Hartzog's progress over the last couple of weeks, being Big Ten Freshman of the Week today?
That's a great honor for Malcolm, but we do everything around here with the team. So Malcolm, he couldn't pick that fumble up unless CK blocked it. CK wouldn't have blocked that punt unless we had rush from Taggy and the rest of the boys. So it was a team thing, but we're happy for Malcolm, and we knew Malcolm was going to be a good player. We just had to bring him along, but he's a good player. He's a good young player.
Did you see a difference in Ty Robinson at all Saturday, just the motor that he was playing with? It seems like people have been waiting for some of those kind of splash plays for a while from him.
Well, yes. I asked him to cut loose. I said, okay, 99, go back to your old ways. Start cutting loose. And I thought he played free, and I thought he played with some fire, because that's the only way that kid can play, is to cut loose and play with some fire. He can't play calm. He's got to be ready, charged up, ready to go, and he did that Saturday, and I'm proud of him for that.
How about Isaac Gifford? He played a lot of snaps out there. What did you see from him?
Well, Gift's a solid player. Gift's a solid player. Gift understands the scheme. Gift plays fast because he understands where the ball's going before it snaps. And Gift's got a lot of heart. Gift's going to tackle you. He's going to cover you, but he's going to play his heart out. He plays hard every snap, but he's a smart football player. He's a smart football player, and he understands what's going on before the ball snaps.
The athletic department put out that video of post-game locker room with Trev and you and the celebration. With Trev giving you the game ball and so forth, and saying that this one was for you, I guess what did that mean to you?
Well, I was happy. Like I said, I was happy for the kids and the coaches. I was happy for the kids and the coaches, and I'm always going to be happy for them before me, because I understand that without those guys, it wouldn't be no me. So it was a great accomplishment, but it was a great accomplishment for the entire athletic department, the entire university, the entire state. So it felt good that we was able to get the win, and people can wake up Sunday morning, go to church, and have something to talk about.
Mickey, with Friday being the first kind of true road game this season for your team, what kind of response are you hoping to see out of them in a different environment?
Well, I don't think the size of that field going to change. We just got to jump a couple of states. But we still expect them to come out and play with some fire, and we got to get them ready. We got to get them ready for a hostile environment, not knowing what's going to happen over at Rutgers. But we expect them to come there and be a physical football team. We always say the most physical team's going to win the game. So we expect them to get ready this week and get ready to go on the road and play Rutgers.
How did you feel like you and Whipple managed the clock offensively and maybe slowing down the pace?
I thought we did a really good job, because we have, Whipple's been doing it for a long time. So he kind of runs with it sometimes. Sometimes I'm thinking it, but he's already thought about it already. So Whippers does a really good job of, running the clock down, and he understands that. And I'll just give him my side sometimes, and most of the time he's going to tell me, no, this is what we need to do.
You said on your show last night that you wanted to run out the clock in the second quarter a little bit differently or better. Would you like to run on that second down instead of a pass?
Well, like I said, I wanted to run. We shouldn't have given the ball back. That's on me. We shouldn't have given the ball back. We should have ran the ball and got out the half 21-14. We gave it back to them. They came down. They did a little pick play, and they got it. They got in the end zone. But we should have ran the ball and ran the clock out.
There's a fine line, right, between pick plays and.
Had to feel really good for Mickey Joseph and the Huskers on Saturday night, but on Monday they've turned the page. Like most teams, Joseph says there's a 24-hour period for us to enjoy that win. But, quote, Indiana was one game. The sign of a good team is who can move forward, end quote. They'll try to do that again. Remember, the game against Rutgers this Friday, a Friday night game, not on Saturday. Meanwhile, Northwestern will play on Saturday, trying to snap a 4-game losing skid. Now, Wildcats played much better this past week on the road against Penn State, forced 5 turnovers, but the offense couldn't capitalize, losing 17-7. Now, all the storylines arrive in Evanston this week as Jim Leonard brings the Badgers in as the interim head coach following the dismissal of Paul Chryst. From the Northwestern perspective, so much still to play for. To hear more about that, we take you to Evanston. Here is NU head man Pat Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Paul. Good afternoon, everybody. A couple of things here before I get going, talking about the game last week and this week's upcoming challenge against Wisconsin. We want to lift our thoughts and prayers up to Matt McPherson and his family. Sadly, his father, Butch, passed away this morning. A great high school coach, a great developer of men, and Butch is a frequent visitor to our program and very close with our program, our staff, and we just want to lift up Matt and his entire family, on the passing of his father, Butch, and just so sad for him. And we'll work through that this week and try to lift up the McPherson family to the best of our ability. On a positive, obviously incredibly positive note, last Wednesday was a very special day for our program with the announcement and the revealing of the new Ryan Field. Just really thankful, and words can't describe how thankful we are collectively as a program to the Ryan family for their not only amazing, unprecedented generosity to our entire campus, community, academically, and scholarship and research, but obviously then to the commitment to the new and enhanced Ryan Field, obviously President Scheller, trustees for their amazing support, and then look forward to working with our great community here in Evanston and making this just a spectacular community project that will be second to none for Evanston and the greater Chicagoland community, to bring our community together and make this something that we're all incredibly proud of and are able to use more than just 7 days a year. So exciting to say the least. To say the least, I'll leave it at that. Excited for homecoming here this week. 10th year anniversary of the 2012 Gator Bowl team. Those guys, got the quote unquote monkey off our back, getting that big bowl win down there in Jacksonville. Special group. Look forward to having a chance to see as many of the guys that are able to make it back here this weekend. And then obviously that coupled with homecoming always makes it special to get guys back and around, and our alums back to be a part of a football Saturday here in Evanston. Our players of the week from last week: offensively, Peter Skronsky, another consistent game by Peter. Defensively, Cam Mitchell, just all over the field, made a ton of plays. We had him at the point of attack 21 times. I think that's the most I've ever seen a corner at the point of attack in my 40 years around the game. Our pride shield, we weren't very good early in the year, but we collectively thought, I should say, that Mueller, O'Rourke, and McLaughlin were really solid in some inclement weather that we needed to be. Big playmaker offensively, Jacob Gill. Defensively, Bryce Gallagher. He accounted for 3 turnovers in that game. Jacob, obviously, with the explosive catch and the touchdown. Practice players, Blake Van Buren on offense. Defensively was Tyler Haskins, and special teams was Jake Arthurs. We got 2 teams that'll be fighting for a win this weekend. I just obviously want to express my thoughts to Paul Christ and his family. An outstanding coach here in the Big Ten for a number of years, not only as a head coach, but then also as a coordinator. A very good friend of mine and someone I have the utmost respect for. Stacy and Robin are good friends. I've got a chance to spend a lot of time with them through our partnership with Under Armour and different Big Ten events. And we wish them nothing but the best of luck in their future endeavors. And, it's not always that you get probably your dream job the way that Coach Leonard has this opportunity. And I know a little something about that. Obviously different circumstances, and I'm not comparing them at all to be the same, but it's always challenging to take over a role in some adverse times. And Coach Leonard will do a phenomenal job. He was a phenomenal player at Wisconsin in the league, and he's been outstanding since he's taken over their defense. And just almost respect for Coach Leonard also. I mean, he's got a lot of ties to our staff and relationships, and we've obviously competed against him a lot. So big game for both teams, and looking forward to the opportunity and the challenge here in Ryan Field this Saturday. So with that, I'll answer any other questions. Thanks again for covering us.
Reminder, if you have a question, please message Athletic Communications in the chat. First question for John Vogt.
Yeah, hi, Coach. Just speaking on that bit of a rivalry with Wisconsin, closest Big Ten team geographically, a lot of really exciting games here at Ryan Field. Can you just speak a bit about that tradition and especially what that means on a day like homecoming?
Well, I think we've been fortunate. Again, I think you go back, I go through my notes getting ready for each week and, get a number of years worth of notes. It just seems like whoever wins the turnover battle in this game usually puts themselves in the best position to win the game. It's typically pretty hard fought. There's been a couple of times we've ended up, maybe a little lopsided in a defeat, and same thing with them. But, typically this is a 1 or 2 score game that goes all the way down to the wire. Again, going back to when I played and all the way through as an assistant, now as the head coach, I just think a great level, an incredibly high level of respect between our 2 programs and our 2 institutions. And, it's always hard to compete against the Badgers, and, a game that I think is always hard fought and always tough and always physical. So I'll anticipate a similar one here this Saturday.
Louis Vicaire.
Hey, Fitz, happy Monday.
You already talked about Paul Chryst, but what was your reaction to getting the news? And then how does it affect preparation? Obviously, it just happened. How much can a team change by Saturday, and what do you do to prepare for it?
Yeah, Louis, I was shocked. I'll just leave it at that. But I work here and I've got 99 problems and theirs are not one, right? So our focus has got to be on us because we've got to capitalize on opportunities that we had like Saturday, and we obviously didn't get it done. So, number one, you got to trust what you see and prepare for what you've seen, not only this year on tape, but then we go back through our historical studies, getting ready for our opponent in all three phases. And then I told the staff, I'll tell them again in the squad tomorrow, you have to approach any type of twists and changes like this a little bit like the opener, where you anticipate just having to adjust in game. If there's things that maybe we didn't, scout, or things that weren't on tape, and now all of a sudden there's a little new wrinkle or a little nuance, and then just adjust with poise and make the proper corrections and adjustments, and then, learn as the game goes on. But, you can hang your hat on physicality and toughness and downhill run and play action pass and a mixture of 4 down and an odd package and a really sophisticated pressure package and multiple coverages and really sound kick game and, really talented players that are tough and physical. They have great pride in the Wisconsin program. So we will expect their best game of the year.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bradley Locker.
Hey, Coach. Last year, you guys obviously went up to Madison, and it did not go the way that I'm sure you had envisioned. Do you kind of use that game as motivation and fuel at all, or do you like to think back to the overall rivalry and, as you said, how close the games have been?
Yeah, different team, right? We're a different team. They're a different team. You obviously will always talk about things that are in history, so you hope they don't have them be repeated. But you definitely, stay focused on what we need to do and what we need to improve on.
John Riker.
Hey, Coach. John Riker, Daily Northwestern. A huge play this weekend from Bryce Gallagher on that interception. What have you seen in his growth as both a playmaker and a leader this season?
Yeah, John, how are you, buddy? I would say a couple things. Number one, it was great pressure by Cam and by Ryan, and a really good, again, a legal quarterback hit. That are some of the things that we've talked about, just being really smart football players. And I thought Ryan was really smart on that play that impacted the throw, and a great catch by Bryce. I was a little perplexed on why the ruling was stands is called. I don't know what the difference between stands and confirmed is now after watching that play. There were a couple of little of these on Saturday. That was one of them, but I thought there was indisputable video evidence of a ridiculous catch. But he's playing great. He's a heck of a football player. He's a great leader for our defense and our team. Just an absolutely ridiculous family that I'm privileged to have. Two of the Gallagher boys that I've had the privilege to coach, two Gallagher. I mean, it's a special guy, and had a great game, man. The fumble recovery, he caused another fumble. I mean, single-handedly being a part of 3 turnovers is what we need from a guy who's a captain, our Mike Backer, and he's been spectacular, and we're going to need him here as we move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Paul Banks. Paul, I think you're muted.
Good morning, Pat. How are you?
Paul, I'm awesome. How's the South Side?
It's great. It's great. It's great as always. The White Sox had a rough year.
It's all right.
I also was pretty shocked when I heard the news about Paul Chryst being fired. And, just what kind of legacy does he leave behind in terms of, Wisconsin is always kind of this identity that they've had.
Well, I think he won over 70% of his games and, competed for multiple Big Ten championships and won bowl games. He is a peer, someone that has had great respect for that program. You tip your today, last night as coaching, I think fraternity, we just tipped our hat to him. You know what I mean? It's one of those where you just respect the heck out of him as a person first. It's one thing to be successful on the field, but we do a lot of Big Ten and national meetings. And, one of the perspectives I always enjoyed were Paul's perspectives on our game, on how to treat and coach players, on where we should go and how we should make our game better and make it better for the players. I just thought Paul always had an amazing perspective, almost somewhat at times in the room, a voice of reason and I think a firm grasp of reality. And was just a great person to be around. And again, never worked with him, but someone that I consider a friend and someone that I have a huge amount of respect for in our profession and as a person. Obviously a great husband and a great father. And last night won't define him as a coach or anything. It's just part of our business. And I'm sure he'll be heavily sought after, to be added to other people's staffs. There's no doubt about that. I mean, he's a hell of a coach.
Do you believe there's anything such as a new manager bounce, a new coach bounce? I mean, it's a cliche they throw around in sports.
Say that again one more time. You broke up just a little bit.
There's a cliche in sports that a team gets like a bounce, or they get energized, or they get like better for a little while when a new coach takes over. I mean, do you believe in that, or?
Well, I hope not.
Thanks.
I'll leave it at that.
Oh, Fitz's shortest answer may have been one of his best. There was another good one. He was asked about the Paul Chryst firing, saying, quote, "I was shocked. I'll leave it at that. But as the coach here at Northwestern, I've got 99 problems and theirs aren't one." Now, to be fair, I think I've heard Fitz use that line or something similar recently in these press conferences. Well, after 3 wins in the non-conference to start the year, Rutgers 0-2 in the Big Ten after losses to Iowa and Ohio State. Scarlet Knights return to the Banks this weekend, Friday night, to host Nebraska, game you can see on FS1. Let's head to Piscataway now, check in with Rutgers headman Greg Schiano.
Guys, appreciate you coming out. Try to answer anything I can.
Preparing for this Nebraska team with a coaching switch, what are the differences maybe you've encountered in the preparation?
Well, they changed head coaches, I guess it's 2 games ago, but then they changed defensive coordinators 1 game ago, and they had a bye week. So defensively, we really only have 1 game to go off of. So we'll be prepared for things they did previously and things that they did a little different in their last game. Offensively, the offensive coordinator was there the whole season. Coach Whipple, he's established coach over the years, NFL and college, excellent coach. We have guys that have coached against him over the years, and guys kind of have a feel for each other. So we got to play whatever comes. That's the reality of it all. And you break the tape down and you get ready. But on any game, you're going to see things that you didn't practice. You just have to be able to have rules that can handle it.
Just with Evan, I mean, what do you kind of feel like are the biggest steps that he's taken forward since being in this expanded role? And then on the flip side of that, what do you feel like is the next step for him to achieve a higher level of consistency that he's, still working on?
Yeah, good question. Evan is growing up right in front of our eyes. He's doing some things better. There's some things that he still struggles with. I think the thing that he's really done a good job is he's run the operation. He's hung in there. He's been hit and he's bounced up. That's a very physical game Saturday, very physical, tough one to play and then have to play on a short week. And Evan was part of that. He got hit. So, but I think he's definitely arrow pointed up. He's learning. He's getting better. We'll just see how it all fits together, in the quarterback, who's available, how it all fits together.
Greg, a couple availability questions. What with Aaron, have you heard anything from the Big Ten or anybody about a potential first half suspension after he got ejected?
No.
Do you anticipate him being available to this point based on what you've?
Yeah, as of now, sure.
And any of the guys that missed the game on Saturday, Desmond, Shaquan, Robert, Gavin, do you have any idea of whether they'll be ready, if any of the guys will be out for sure, just any of their statuses at this point?
I don't know anybody that's out for sure, but I don't know if they'll be ready, especially on the short week. It'll be a challenge. But they're getting better. It's just a matter of there's getting better where you can get back to practice, and then you have to practice before you can play. So it's all going to be a timing issue.
Greg, you guys are only averaging 1.25 offensive touchdowns per game against FBS opponents. What would you say the biggest obstacle is for the offense just to score more points?
We probably have several. Some of it's coaching, some of it's playing, some of it's execution. There's a lot of things. We're working on it, though. We're going to be okay.
Greg, when Vedral wasn't at quarterback, usually it was a run play. Are we going to see more out of Vedral in the coming weeks?
Hopefully. I mean, if he continues to get better. We had a specific plan for Noah in that game, things that we felt he could do. Part of working his way back to being full go is the games, right? So it's literally practice, rehab, and the games. And there's things he can do, so we're going to use him for the things he can do. And the things that right now he struggles with, we won't do. But I think he's getting better, so hopefully pretty soon he'll be back to being able to do everything he's capable of.
Talk about the progress of Sam Brown and what's enabled him to have so much success so early.
Well, Sam is a very talented young man, and he works extremely hard. From the day he stepped foot on this campus, he was not an early enrollee, and he stepped foot on our campus in early June, I guess it was, and has just been attacking the position, attacking the job. As far as learning, he's a sponge. He's physically gifted, and I think he feels very much in place. It's not too big for him. So now it's a matter of how do we work the rotation and utilize every guy's strengths, because I do think they have unique abilities, all of them, and I think there's a place for all of them too.
Touching on Bobby's earlier question, Nebraska fired Scott Frost every 2 weeks. Last night, Wisconsin fired Paul Chryst. That's 5 Power 5 head coaches fired in 5 weeks. Do you have any thoughts on the current trend where it seems like really their coaches are getting fired earlier in the season and buyouts are really not taken into account? I think Paul Chryst had a $10 million buyout or something like that. Do you have any thoughts on the trend of Power 5 coaches getting fired earlier in the season?
Not really. I mean, I kind of stick to our own program, but Paul's a friend. Paul's an excellent football coach and an excellent man, so I only wish him the best.
Any further questions?
Okay, guys, thanks.
Short and sweet from Rutgers. Important, Greg Schiano said he does expect Aaron Cruikshank to be available for Friday's game against Nebraska. Remember, Cruikshank was the player who drilled the Ohio State punter Jesse Mirko after the fake punt and was ejected from Saturday's game. Schiano said he has not heard anything from the Big Ten to indicate any future suspension is upcoming for Cruikshank.